What did they do on the ship? You're reading the book.
People
They didn't throw people over on the
when they
Mayflower.
were dead.
Huh?
When they were dead, they threw people.
Well, you're thinking about a different time period.
Oh.
You're thinking about the Middle Passage. Mayflower Compact. That might be a set of outside information. Mayflower Compact. Okay, what else? They made an agreement for government. Okay, that's a big social one right there. That probably is a lot to do with religion, and you can tie that in with religion because they're making this Mayflower Compact because their government's going to be based on religion. They're making this agreement that they're going to follow religious rules. Okay, that's a big social impact on that colony. It's fundamentally set up for religion. Mayflower Compact's part of that. That's outside information. What else do we know about the New England colonies as far as religion? What are they supposed to be an example of? City on a hill. Okay, and you can write about religion in the social because it really does, it can coexist together because their community is faith-based. So don't think that you can't. John Winthrop, City on a Hill, is a perfect example of that. Now, document B is kind of like a social for New England. If you think about document A, John Winthrop, a model of Christian charity, this is where that's going to go into. Okay? So where before we had our outside information, now we're going to look at this. With document A, when I grade the papers, the readers typically, with the people when I'm at the table with my colleagues, what they say is you don't want to use more than a sentence. If possible, take 7 to 8 words out of the document that are the most important, and that's what you use to kind of enhance your point. So as you read through, and God Almighty in His most holy and wise providence, okay, so you start there, you've read through, now you're kind of getting towards the bottom, you're scanning it, you're reading it. If you look down at the bottom, and I'm kind of cheating because I've done this a lot, the eyes of all people are upon us. Okay? So that if we deal falsely with our God in this work we have undertaken, and to cause Him to withdraw His present help from us, we shall be made a story and a byword through the world. Okay? What I would take, what do you think is the most important part of that? What might stand out to you? About 5 to 6 words. The eyes of all people are upon us. Okay? So, John Winthrop Okay. John Winthrop said that the eyes of all people are upon us when describing the Puritan settlement of New England. Now, here's the thing. Can you stop there? No. Because you have to fully explain your thoughts. So what you have to put after that is, you might say, this belief that Plymouth colony, the Massachusetts Bay colony should be like a city on a hill, an example of the rest of the world, led the Puritans to enforce certain social laws, religious laws, to make sure that all people were following their rules and regulations. And that might be how you tie in, like Hunter said before, the persecution part. Okay? You might tie it in that way, where because they did those things, they were punishing other people. But I'd mainly focus on just some of the rules, like they implemented. Like the things that you could and couldn't do that you've read, like those blue laws of Connecticut that you've read about how they kept order in society. That would be outside information too, all those things that come back to you. Okay? But Winthrop also says something else in that Doc A. He says, if you look in the middle part, and this is where you're going to have to, as you read through documents, you're going to have to learn how to pick out the most important parts. And we'll work on that as we go throughout the year. I'm kind of cheating here for time. But we must delight in each other, make each other's conditions our own, rejoice together, mourn together, labor and suffer together, always having before our eyes our commission and community in the work. That's all you need. Because right there, what does it say about their colony? What does that statement say?
Like,
It must be together. We're working for the common good. So when you take that quote out, you can help enhance this one about how the eyes of the world are upon us. They really feel, or you can just put the other one first, it doesn't matter. But they really feel like their community is supposed to work together for the common good. Okay, that's another theme. Okay, that's a social, that's a fundamental social underlying message in New England, where they really believe that they're working together for the common good. And part of that has to do with the fact that they're coming there for religious reasons. If you think about the Chesapeake, how does the Chesapeake differ from that? They're there to make money. In the Chesapeake, they're out for themselves. They're not caring about community. They're focused on tobacco and how much money I make. So if you look at how the Puritans did it, now you can transition into how the Chesapeake differs. Okay, so the Puritans are there for the common good. They're working together. And then you might say, you know, when you're ready to transition to the Chesapeake, while New Englanders promoted common good, the colonist living in the Chesapeake had a different social agenda. Okay, and then now you talk about the Chesapeake. Because you kind of have to you have to show the New England side of things, how they were social, but then you have to show the other part where the Chesapeake are different. So you have to show how the two sides, you have to do a compare and contrast throughout your essay. So if you think about it, we use Doc B to help show like the people who are coming. What else could you use Doc B for? We used it for New Englanders. Can you use it for the Chesapeake too? Nope, you can't.
No.
Because it just deals with bound for New England. What about Doc C?
Yeah.
Yes, why?
Bound for Virginia.
They're headed to Virginia, good. So, in 1635, the immigrants are bound for Virginia. That's Doc C. Now, this is, again, going to New England. You've got a list of immigrants here. Okay? What I would do is to enhance your point, I would quickly total up the number of guys. Okay? And just kind of count them up. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, not wasting time, there's probably 50 guys. How many women are there? 10. Okay? That's a perfect example of when you say, while New Englanders promoted the common good, the colonists leaving the Chesapeake had a different social agenda. The colonists coming to Virginia were there for economic gain. And then you'd go on to explain how that led to different social change, how they started to develop differently. Because what do we know about the type of people who are coming to Virginia and Maryland?
The single.
They're younger. They're male. They're typically not very old. And what's their social status? How would you describe most of them coming to Virginia?
Four.
What's the name for? They're the labor force. These people coming over.
Indentured servants.
Indentured servants. That's a big thing. So when you talk about outside information, you're going to have young men, typically like indentured servants. Few women. What else do we know about them? What else do we know socially that's going to happen in Virginia that does not? It doesn't happen in Virginia, but it does happen in New England. It goes back to kind of that document B. Families, good. Families are few and far between. They don't have any families. Okay, it's mostly young single men. There aren't enough women to really populate the colony. So they're always having this influx of new indentured servants, new people. And this might be with this point too, when you talk about social, you explain how that led to changes in the Chesapeake Bay Society. How women had a greater degree of autonomy. How women were allowed to own land because the men were dying. And they had that widowarchy. Where basically, women had a lot more benefits because there were fewer women. So the males didn't have they had power, but they didn't have as much. So socially, it led to fewer families. Okay? They're more out there on their own for gain. And that might be one of the things you reference. You're going to reference the social change and how it created different conditions. You might too explain like socially. This time period says 1700. Can you use Bacon's Rebellion or can you not? You can. Bacon's Rebellion happens before 1700.
You can use the witch trials too, can't you?
You could, yes, you could if you were going to put that in like social, how there was tension between the rich and the poor. You could do that. So Bacon's Rebellion is almost right at the end, but you might talk a little bit about how that led to like changes in terms of like socially. They went away from indentured servants. Maybe there was a conflict. You could go in like the conflict between indentured servants and the plantation owners. How there was a fight over rights that led to social unrest. Different things like that. Let's look at document D. Let's rank that one too. So we know what the documents, okay, our three main points are geography, social and religious, and then economics. We know so far that B and C can go with social and religious. So can A. Okay? Document D, Articles Agreement. Now, if you just think about that Articles Agreement, what's that probably tell you? It's social. That might be a big key difference. In New England, they're already forming agreements about how they want to run their community. Wage and price regulations in Connecticut. Economics, good. And this is a tricky one. Okay? You got to understand where it's happening. It's happening in Connecticut. If you scan, and I'm going to kind of, again, I know what I'm looking for, and we're going to work on this throughout the year. Go down to where it says their neighbors. Their neighbors with their arts and trades comfortably, they do not enrich themselves suddenly and inordinately by oppressing prices and wages to the impoverishment of their neighbors. So what does that kind of tell you about what their goal is? Oh, and then up at the top, they're the religious end of their callings, which is that receiving such moderate profit as may enable themselves to serve God and their neighbors with their arts and trades comfortably, they do not enrich themselves suddenly and inordinately. Okay, you might have to take a little bit more to make that work, but what are they essentially saying in that document E? What are they trying to tell those people when they say moderate profits? Huh? Don't make too much, okay? Don't make more than you really need. You know, if Gein's is selling, you know, a cure for diabetes, Gein's shouldn't charge an extraordinary amount of money. He should charge just enough that him and his family are fine. Okay, he doesn't need to get over the top. That's what they're saying in the Puritan community. What that shows you is with the economy, New England's different. They're trying not to make as much money as possible. So you can use that to enhance E and how there's a difference. Document F, Captain John Smith, History of Virginia. Now, what do you think this one's going to go with? Because he's talking about gold, and he's talking about other things.
Chesapeake
Like
and
gold seekers,
geography.
there was no talk about dig gold, wash gold, refine gold. What?
Economics.
You could use it with economics. Document F could go with economics. It could also go with what?
Geography and
Geography?
I try to put it with geography just because you're not going to find a lot. You might explain some of the different things about that. You might look for more information than just dig gold. I'd probably try to put it with geography, but it's not bad if you use it with economics too. Okay? And you're not going to go into a ton like about Pocahontas and John Smith, and you don't like bashing into the club. That's nice to know, but it's not going to get you, you know, where you want to go. You might reference the fact they built Jamestown on a swamp. That might be outside information. You might reference the fact that geographically, they built it in an area where there was a lot of, remember when we read that article, the Virginia, the packet, talked about how the salt water started becoming brackish and caused poisoning. That's outside information that you can put in to enhance your DBQ. Document G,